Wednesday's bringing a huge update with Fortune's Keep as well as a brand new version of Caldera. What we're going to look at here is just some of the different POIs. This is the first main point of interest. Working from west to east, there's so many different POIs to look at. You can kind of see the overall different mechanics at play. This area actually right here reminds me a little bit of the graveyard area over in Verdansk a little bit, even though it doesn't look the same. It kind of gives you that little feel where there was a building on this side. They have this underground smuggler's cove with the little bit of this balloon system that'll allow you to get out. On top of that, you can kind of see where this part connects and how it overlays. So overall, I think even though the map is relatively the same size or a little bit larger, you can see that there's going to be a lot more usage with level changes and different environments depending on where the zone shifts. Because sometimes when you're playing Rebirth, it'll be a hard shift to one side. So then you get to, or you're forced to experience that part of the map. And I would expect that as you play this, you're going to get more familiar with how the mode plays, especially since Rebirth isn't going away for long. It'll be gone for a week. And then they'll continually have both these modes essentially working together in harmony. And then we have this particular one right here, which is the Keep. Pretty big area from the top side. You can kind of see there's a lot going on. We'll see how much you can actually access. Obviously, when you're landing in, you'll be able to get on the roof here, and there will be a lot of navigation through here and areas to loot. And that's the thing that they've kind of emphasized is the looting mechanic being at play, because obviously you get perks and all those things. This one is the interior. It looks like I'm liking the color palette though. I'm liking this colors for sure. Instead of like a lot of times maps are like 50 shades of gray and then green and then that's it, right? So this one is nice to have those colors built in. We got the winery. This is more of kind of what you're used to seeing with a little bit of the gold kind of plundery look. We got the tents area over on the far right. With the balloons, and you can see that kind of like those going to be in play again. I wonder how it's going to work, because obviously some of these areas are a little bit higher, so the balloon will probably have to take you a little bit further. I mean, you can see another balloon on this right side, just a little bit of the piece of it there. And then as we come through here, there's going to be new contracts. They're going to start over here, but I would imagine they make their way over to Caldera. So they have a black market supply run, which mixes a supply run and a supply drop, which basically means when you grab it, it'll give you kind of an area where you need to go. Once you get closer, you'll kind of have to search for that, and then you'll be able to open it up, and then that'll give you access to the black market. It's mainly meant for mid to late game, not really at the start, because you won't be able to afford the stuff in it if you don't have the cash. Then after finding the store, the team who activated the contract can exchange their cash for one of the many potentially tide turning items. Afterwards, any other squads on the map can use this buy station for a few minutes before it deactivates. So if you see it, you might be able to go run towards it and then buy it. The least costly items at a suggested starting in-game cash price of 500 for Fortune's Keep is a sequencer grenade, which scrambles the enemy's HUD and distorts audio like an EMP, as well as plays those infamous numbers from the sleeper agent broadcast. And if you guys didn't participate in the event, if you played Blackout and you were in the gas, you would see that the numbers would pop up. And Battle Hard reduces this duration of these effects, and stim injections immediately counter it. So if you're getting affected, you could stim, and then now stim has outplay to that particular device. So it's counters and counters and on top of counters. Next, our collection of gold-plated redacted weapons. The only secret about them is that they are incredibly rare. Weapon blueprints: the shotgun, sniper rifle cost less than the SMG assault rifle and light machine gun, and all of them have their own uses around the island. Lastly, there are 3 items that range from mid 4 to 5 figures, so that's going to be a lot. Super expensive. Nebula 5 loaded minigun and the all-seeing foresight, which I don't think is all going to be that important for this map, but I think once this makes its way into Caldera, foresight could be pretty useful. And then we got specialist bonus. These do not come cheap, so either complete the contract later in the match or pull together some cash, because obviously once you buy something, then the buy station is going to start to disappear, and then you're going to miss out. So you want to make sure you have a decent amount of cash before you grab one of these contracts to experiment with those things. Then there's a cash extraction event. We need cash for the black market for other reasons. The mercenaries occasionally perform a cash extraction, a public event that may happen multiple times during a standard Fortune's Keep. And this, I believe, is more of an AI operated thing. So I don't know if this will be AI like we've seen in Caldera, or it's going to be something like them testing some of the AI that they've been testing in Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2, or whatever the case is. And we'll see kind of if it's just the same as usual or these operators are a little bit different. So it kind of has me thinking like that. When the event begins, the attack map will show a flashing gold circle and a money bag icon. Simultaneously, a flare fires into the air to signal a helicopter that will repel a black and gold bag down to the extraction site. Similar to when a contraband contract happens, near the bag, a squad of 5 agents, non-operator mercenaries, will take up position just before the drop. Again, that is AI controlled bots. However, be warned, these mercenaries have multiple reinforcement waves, and that's on top of you not being the only operator in the lobby who may want these rewards. The event is over once the bag is completely empty, the helicopter is destroyed, or enough time has passed. And then there's Caldera has a ton of updates. Obviously, we're going to get Storage Town and Armored SUV. Storage Town relatively looks the same. Maybe some slight variations because there's a big old mountain involved here. You can see this edge, the cliff side here, but it looks relatively similar. Even with this building right here, that used to be on this far right side that would be off screen. And you can kind of see how that looks. So Storage Town, we got a few different angles of that. This Armored SUV won't be right away. It'll be in season, and it'll likely just be from those contracts. It'll replace the other contracts that we had. But that one seems cool. It has a little bit of a nitro boost. Probably going to be a lot weaker, so it'll be a little bit easier to deal with, even though it can still be annoying. It won't be the overpowered Bertha that we've had for multiple seasons. POI and environment updates. This is kind of where it gets a little bit crazy because they're going to be changing all kinds of stuff on the map. The lush jungles and expansion foliage is being cleared out as operators rush to uncover what mercenaries hid on the island. Expect cleared sightlines across numerous areas of the island, partially due to small camps cropping up from resorts. So like normally this might be a bunch of bushes. Now it's going to have buildings. So if you see someone, it's going to be more like organic fighting versus out in the field in the middle of nowhere on a hill. More reasonable fights where you can go into a tent, you can go into a building, you could jump up on a roof, change the angle, and it'll feel more like a dynamic fight than, oh, I see you out in open, you see me out in open, we shoot. Whoever wins, wins. And that's a little bit more randomized who saw each other first. There's going to be 7 bunkers on Caldera, are now controlled by mercenaries. To access them, you'll need a key card. And it's very similar to Verdansk, where you got a key card, you ran to the bunker, but these ones are going to be tied in with that underground system. Long-serving operators know that the key card is rare drop, supply box to contracts, or even enemy operators who found them during their mission. A key card is bound to the operator who picks it up and can only be used once on any of these 7 bunkers. So one single use. So if 3 of your teammates get it, you guys can use the fast travel system to get to the bunker and then access those for the rewards that they'll have in there. Once used, the bunker will open up and reveal a lion's share of riches, gold, weapons, equipment, and more. Scaffolding and bridges, you can see this added to Capital, and this will link the different areas, so it'll be easier to rotate from one building to the next, and it'll give it a little bit more high ground. But you can see that these are relatively exposed. You can probably shoot through the bottom of them. They don't really have these big old blocking railings or anything like that, so a nice little quality of life change there. They removed all the bones from this part of dig site. A dry dock and arsenal now holds a ship, and then before this was just empty. And this kind of looks similar to the ships that were already on Rebirth Island. So they've kind of repurposed those, and maybe they tried them here and they experimented with how they played because they're essentially copying those ships over, which is kind of cool. And then we also have new staircases and slight alterations to Peak Summit to make it easier to maneuver around the area. Another quality of life change. And then we also have this other POI, and that's just one of the changes coming to Peak. Look for the new industrial area north of Peak as a great place to stock up for supplies. Even though you still have low ground, it's not just going to be empty dirt like it was before. And that's kind of where it's going to feel like you have engagements, and it's going to be clusters of fights in specific POIs instead of, I remember fighting at that dirt rock. Kind of lame, right? So you're going to have a little bit more dynamicness to that. There's also a new military camp that takes up open space above the tunnel east of the summit. So you'll have another POI to the east there. And this will be very similar, even though these are kind of things that we've seen before. At least it allows you to have those areas. And some deforestation along the green military tents at the gondola station. There's also a new step-like incline from a dried out riverbed spanning from the gondola up to Peak, as well as similar staircase-like rock outcropping leading up to the main station from points west. So you can see this, and they have this kind of built in so you can navigate. Whereas before you couldn't climb those rocks, now they just put in stairs and said, hey, you're going to be able to walk up those, right? That is not the only river that dried up. Look at the foothills south of Peak, and you'll see one of the major bodies of water completely evaporated and dammed up. So you can see that. Now it's all going to be open, whereas the water was flowing through. And you can see it through here too. Damn, the shallow water near the docks has receded, making the area easier to run through, because before the water, you can't slide cancel in. So you just kind of have to run. And this allows it so you'll still be able to do exactly what you need to do. Other bodies of waters have disappeared as well in this area, and they have this little balloon area probably, but also for plunder. You can kind of see how it's kind of all the different POIs they're drastically changing. One final area where the drought has hit the hard is in Village, the main river that will completely dried up, giving operators a chance to explore its riverbed for items. So now there'll be chests, same way the cracks happened over on Verdansk. You'll have those little different walkways with different chests and looting areas. Not all water is gone from Caldera. Look at the shadow pools instead of the river at the north and south ends of mines. So they have a little bit of water here, but that's nothing like crazy. These cover a good chunk of changes coming to Caldera, but there's still more to explore with this update. I think there's supposed to be Easter eggs on the new map, as well as probably in Caldera with the bunkers, where you can find find a new logging station, as well as other minor updates while exploring the new version of the map. So a lot of map and POI changes. Hopefully this still runs great on console, and I think removing a lot of that foliage, I think it's supposed to be like 50%, should help with a lot of rendering issues and make it still simplified. And it's not like they just removed the foliage, it's like they literally replaced it with a micro POI. So instead of just a bunch of bushes and trees everywhere, now it's a bunch of buildings that you still got to go through and clear, but at least it feels like a dynamic fight versus like what I said earlier, where it's you see me, I see you, good luck, and then we see how it goes. So what are your guys' thoughts? Appreciate the support. Thank you for watching as always. Have a great day.